Hi, I'm Black Bright, as you know, and I'm doing the Luton series of influencers. And I have with me today Selwyn Baptiste,
Jean Baptiste.
Selwyn Jean Baptiste, and he's going to be sharing a little bit about what motivates him and that kind of thing. I don't know, normally I'm pretty smooth talking, but something about this gentleman is making me a bit nervous. So,
My hands are up.
So we all have an opportunity because this is about Luton. I like to ask first of all, why Luton? Why did you come to Luton? What is it as an adult you still live in Luton?
Um, my parents came to Luton when I was about two and a half, back in the 60s. Um, they left South London. I was born in South London, and the opportunities were here for cheaper housing
Okay.
and opportunities for work. And as you know, back in the 60s, we had the Windrush. People come over on the Windrush generation. And families from the Caribbean and the Commonwealth were relocating to England after the war. And it was the call out for labour, and industry was being developed. So my brother and I were both born in London, and I think my brother would have been about 6 months or so when we arrived in Luton. So that's why Luton to start with.
Okay.
Since then, I've been lucky enough to travel with my work, travel because of education, and I've boomeranged around the world. I've lived in Spain, America, the Caribbean, traveled across Europe. Um, my background was in engineering. I was working on engineering products, um, engineering production between Southampton, London, Birmingham, Manchester, and with work, I've ended up back in Luton with the pandemic and the opportunity to work from home.
Okay. And when you say you lived in Spain and all these other countries,
Mm-hmm.
how long did you live in those countries for? Like 3 weeks, 3 months, a couple of years?
Um, First was Spain. I lived in Spain for about 3 years. From there, I went across to America. Um, Living in Spain, I was working property promotions, hotels, timeshare, resales, people buying housing, um, holiday homes. And then from there, um, I got opportunity to travel across the Atlantic, and the adventurer in me came out, and I was at sea for 28 days,
Oh,
traveling
wow.
from Tenerife to beautiful island of St. Lucia, where I stayed for 7 weeks. Then I went up to America, um, lived in America, traveled across backwards and forwards across America, and unfortunately, with the death of my youngest brother, I came back to the UK.
Oh, did your brother die in this country?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
died here in Luton.
And how long ago was that? Is it still raw? I guess it must be.
You never get over the loss of
Your loved
someone,
one, yeah.
and Colton passed away 1982, so
Wow.
that brought me back to the UK to support my parents and the family, and I stayed here ever since.
Wow. Okay, so that is quite a comprehensive little introduction. So you have a few strings to your bow, apart from what you've mentioned, your international kind of exploits.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that you now do security. I'm not quite sure if you do security still, but you do a football coach, you do counsel, you mentor. What's kind of directed you to those kind of life choices, and which one out of all of them do you find the most fulfilling?
Um, Football coaching is my passion, my enjoyment. Um, I found myself working as a volunteer through one of my football contacts. He's actually his wife, Sharon Hill. Um, she works with Luton Council on the Flying Start charity program, and whereby they look after children from conception, where a woman's pregnant, right through to when the child's 19 years old. And because of what's gone on with the pandemic and people working from home, a lot of funding has been cut. And unfortunately, the charities are actually suffering because a lot of the income was from the airport. And obviously, the council have got to do a balancing act with the numbers. And unfortunately, it was the charity that actually found themselves losing a lot of the locations for the children, in that whereby whether you lived in Farley Hill or Dunstable or Marsh Farm, or Stopsley, whatever part of town you were in, you had a little hub there, a little support centre for the mothers and baby units, for pregnant mothers to get advice, and fathers as well. And Sharon asked me to come on board because of my contacts in and around Luton with the businesses relate to my property business. I know a lot of people, a lot of the builders, a lot of the bank managers, people in construction, and I was just asked to come on board and help as a volunteer. Okay. So yes, that's the enjoyable part. The mentoring is through the football. I think if you allow a child, be it boys or girls, so I was coaching both when I worked at the school. A child sits inside all day long behind a desk trying to find himself or herself and develop themselves. But the consequence of that, they want to go outside and play. And being in a London school, you found the spaces were very, very tight, land prices very high. So the boys, when I took them football, and the girls, they just really imploded and just really took it all on with the coaching and what have you. And we found that we had a lot of good quality footballers, and I was spending 5 days a week after school coaching them, and then at the weekends as well. So the boys on a Saturday and the girls on a Sunday. So being in the London schools, there was a lot of challenges, as with gang crimes and postcode wars and this person's family and that person's family. And I found myself as a mentor, as a coach, as a behaviour officer within the school, supporting the children there afterwards. So
how difficult is it? Because we kind of see images of children and they seem so defiant and rebellious. How difficult did you find it coaching young kids? What age were they, first of all, roughly?
11 upwards, 11 to 25s.
Okay, so how difficult was that?
Initially, when I started at the school, I was recruited because of the African Caribbean male who was a father and a grandfather. And the lady saw that on my CV and she says, we need more men in the schools. And because it wasn't traditionally a high paid job, even in inner London, it was very challenging. But because I was doing the football coaching, because I was doing the mentoring, and because I was actually working 7 days a week, the time just flew by, and I was still doing my property stuff as well. So I was still earning a little bit of pin money, as you want to call it. And I didn't see a problem with the kids because most of them I was with more often I was with my own children. And although my children at that time have actually grown, you still miss coming home and you know, laughing and joking with your kids and finding out what they had to do for homework and what have you. That actually helped me appreciate my kids and the challenges that our inner city kids suffer with.
So when you work and you travel, is that at the expense of spending time with your children?
It was at the time, yeah.
Okay.
And my kids have grown up and accepted it to a point. But I'm sure if they were being interviewed, they'll say, no, Dad, you were missed.
You weren't around when I needed you.
Yes. And I apologise for that.
Okay, so what motivates you? What drives you to do all your different... I mean, you're a bit like me in the sense that I've got my fingers in a lot of pies, but what drives you?
I think just helping people, finding solutions. My apprenticeship, when I left school, you could walk out a job at 12 o'clock and walk into another job at 12:15. It was that crazy in Luton because it was an industrial town. You had the factories, you had Vauxhalls, you had Chryslers, you had Bedford Trucks, you had a lot of engineering companies that were making parts for all those factories as well. And what they used to call the breadbasket of Britain, the Midlands, and Luton was only an hour
Oh, wow.
away from Birmingham. So we was in a good spot from a labour requirement point of view. And I found that my engineering background, because I was fixing people's cars, fixing trucks, even the Queen's car.
The Queen?
Yes, the
How
Queen.
do you manage to do that?
The Queen had a Vauxhall Cresta, and a lot of the car companies actually donate a car to Her Majesty.
Okay.
And the corgis wouldn't go out and do their mess and get it.
So they did it in the car?
Snoop. Yeah. And the back of the car, it was an estate car, was rotten.
Oh, no.
Absolutely stinking rotten. Yes, yes.
So that was like the dog's hut. Really?
I've owned dogs, and I know people have owned dogs, but I don't know anybody who allows the dogs to do that in the car. So sorry, Your Majesty, for exposing your business. But what we found was when the car came in, I was an apprentice at the time, and although I'd been trained on engines, be it petrol and diesel engines, what actually happened was I was one of the few apprentices that actually got to work on the bodywork, the paint, the interior, the electrics as well. Because what people say, my car's broken down, but is it electrical? Is it mechanical? Is it the engine? Is it the fuel that's in there? There's multi different reasons why a car wouldn't work. So I found myself just working in the whole production process of the car, from the steel frame that's put together before the electrical harnesses are put in, and then the mechanical parts and the engine and drive axles and everything, and the interior. So I worked in all the departments as an apprentice for about 2 weeks, from what I can remember. And I just got an understanding of the whole vehicle. And the Queen's estate car came in at that time. We had to cover up, obviously, strip the car down, push it into what was the steam wash, and we had masks on and everything, health and safety, and just power washed it, and then saw where the rot was in the car and took away the old parts and put in new panels. And
Why did they want that if they just wanted the dog to poo in it?
Well, we had to clean it before we could repair it, because they'd pooed in it that much. The whole chassis, rear chassis. The car was a 1960s car. I'm talking about 1975, 1976. I was an apprentice, and after 60 years of the car getting, we had to strip it back and get it back.
Get it all back to normal.
All back together, yeah.
Okay. So what is your biggest challenge that you faced over the years, and how did you overcome that?
My biggest challenge? Ooh. My biggest challenge, being a father, being away from my youngest daughter, being a father, being away from my son, because both my kids were born when I was in America, and understanding the role of a father. It's more accepted now that a man can work from home. In some cases, those who can work, we got that choice. And my father wasn't a literal man. He couldn't read or write. So my mother and my sister used to write his letters and that to the families and wait for the replies via airmail, not WhatsApp.
Yeah, I remember
airmail, which takes about
6 to 7 days, isn't it? I think
to get one way back in the day. And I found that growing up, as much as I loved my father, and he was there, my biggest challenge was when my children came along, I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So if there was a if that's the biggest challenge, that's what it was. Everything else, racism, unemployment, breakdown of relationships, they're things you learn as you go along, and you mature and you hear from your friends on that. But as
There's no kind of
there's
handbook for
yeah,
parents, is
there's
there?
no handbook for parents. As I saw in the Lloyd's Bank advert, a child does not come
With
with
a
a manual.
handbook,
With a
yeah.
manual.
So do
So
you think that is why maybe you play the father role to all these children?
yes, yes,
So that's a contributory
because
factor then.
yes, because inner city as well as I was lucky enough that my primary school was in Luton, my secondary school was in Luton, my sixth form college was in Luton, my university was in Luton. So I grew up and knew the families of friends that were there, and then I saw the people, the outsiders coming in
And what
and
did you do?
understanding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
you had that better understanding. So then
Okay.
when I went into the school, I had that strong foundation of continuity going through. But then when you're meeting a young lady from West Africa who speaks French and she doesn't speak any English and she's come from a war-torn country, or a young boy who's come from um, Turkey because of the wars going on between the Muslims and the Kurds, and different corners of the world. And you met such a diverse population of people, Japanese St. Lucian girl, Vietnamese Dominican girl, Spanish, Jamaican boy.
Everybody's there, aren't
Everybody
they?
was, as they say in Jamaica,
Out
um,
of many one
out of
people.
many one people, as you know. So, and being in the school and knowing all the different challenges some of those kids had, and then knowing that Christmas time, this time of the year, in summer breaks, the headmaster would remind us that we may be going home to our families, but some of these kids were going to social services housing.
Wow.
Some of them were going to live with their grandparents. Some of them, who knows where they were going. We had children in the school that were caring for their younger brothers and sisters. We had one 15-year-old boy and one 13-year-old girl who were caring for their younger brothers and sisters, one of which was a 6-month-old baby in the same house as the parents. And they were caring for the parents as well, because some of them had health issues that needed caring for. So I was lucky that I had that structure in my life, and even when I went into the industry, it was still there because I'd done my apprenticeship in Luton. I played football in Luton. I socialised in Luton, and I knew what was going on in London. So I was up and down the motorway, and being a mechanic, being a driver, passed my driving test when I was 18. I was one of my first with my friends, two of us that could drive, and we used to hire cars at the weekend and just go away. Would it be Leicester, would it be Coventry, would it be Liverpool, Leeds, Manchester, Cardiff? We travelled just for weekends away.
Okay.
And playing football sometimes. The community was very tight. The girls were playing netball, and we'd be away go away on a Friday night, come back on a Sunday. So we had that structure support, which is still here to this day, I suppose.
So you mentioned that you went to university. What do you do there?
Consumer education and resource management.
What's that in English?
Consumer education is when you buy a TV or a computer, it comes with a guarantee, and the companies, I was taught how to read the small print. So if you had to take it back, if there was a complaint, if it needed repairing, what your rights were. So I could either work for you as a consumer or for the production company, so like maybe Sony, or if it was a car, it'd be Vauxhall or somebody like that. So I had that skill that I could even look at it and just say, help you either get your money back or get a replacement and what have you.
So, like today, if I had something that didn't work, is there a service like what you were studying that people can write to and say, I need some help? What would that be? Consumer Affairs
Consumer Affairs.
Or the Trading Standards? Is that the same thing?
Yeah. Trading Standards make sure that if somebody's selling something to you, they're following. There's a certain procedure. You can't now go knock on people's doors and sell stuff to a point. Back in the day, we used to just walk out, pick a street, knock the doors, give people our business cards, and do business with people like that. So yeah, it's consumer protection they call it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you told me a little bit about your childhood and everything, but your childhood and your adolescent life and your early adulthood, how has that shaped Selwyn Jean Baptiste?
I was brought up in a very loving home. Today they would call it a HMO. There's a house of multiple occupation.
Oh, yeah.
Because my parents, we lived in a one-bedroom room, one bedroom at the top of the house in the attic, and my father would go to work, and I'd be going out with my brother, helping my mum do the shopping, and I'd be carrying the shopping with my mum. So mum's got the pushchair. She'll get to the bottom of the stairs, and she's got to go up 4 flights of stairs, and I would stay at the bottom of the stairs. She would take my brother up. She'll come down. She'll take the shopping up. She'll come back down.
Wow.
She'll take some of the shopping, and I've worked the 2 bags, and then I went up behind her.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's how it was back in the day.
And so,
no Uber Eats, no Tesco, Sainsbury's deliveries.
okay.
And they provide a service. Don't get me wrong, because I've done some driving for them as well. So yeah, so that shaped me. That and with my long memory from the age of 2, 3, I can remember doing that.
Okay.
And so when we moved to Luton, my mother had a 3-bedroom house, a Coronation Street type house, I call it, mid-terrace.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that came through the front door was the post and the fresh air when you open the letterbox.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my mother, my father, my brother, and I. We lived in the front room.
Okay.
And Mum rented out the 3 rooms upstairs.
Okay.
To people who were coming from the Caribbean, Ireland as well.
Okay.
And that's why the communities are still tight to this day in Luton if you're part of that community. So yeah, and that's that. And by seeing the different people coming through, and they were from Jamaica, they were from Dominica, St. Kitts, Barbados. So it didn't matter. Some people came and stayed with us for 2 or 3 months. Some come stayed for one guy came and stayed with us for about 7 years.
Wow.
So you saw that rotation of people, and then when somebody was coming up and there was somebody's birthday or somebody's arriving, there was a little party there. So we'd have a party at the house maybe once a month.
Okay.
And Gary, we had a few. But we learned to dance and socialise, and it was just nice. And as we got older, and my younger sister and my younger brother came along, we moved from the front room to upstairs. No, first we went to the back room because Mum wanted the front room to become just the front room, as any Irish
Caribbean,
West Indian family would know.
Yeah.
The front room is the palace.
Yeah.
So my brother and I moved to the dining room on the bunk beds. And then my sister came from Dominica, my older sister to me. I'm the 8th of 11 for my mum and dad, 7th for my mum,
Okay.
but the 8th for my mum and dad. And Gary and I slept in the dining room on the bunk beds, and my 2 sisters had the bedroom upstairs because the tenant moved out, and then it was just one room at the back. I think it was 2 guys was living in the back, and they moved. And my brother and I went upstairs, and then Mum and Dad had to sell the house because it was a compulsory purchase.
Okay.
So we had to move because they made way for the extension of the school. It was all rubber stamped. So we moved to another house further up Hightown Road.
Oh, okay. So who would you say Selwyn Jean Baptiste is?
Selwyn Jean Baptiste is a very easygoing guy, but don't upset me. Selwyn Jean Baptiste is a lucky guy, very lucky because I've got some good friends around me. I'm a fun guy. I was conceived at Christmas time. I'm born in September.
Okay.
So I've got that Christmas spirit, that New Year spirit in my blood from way back in the day. And as my friends reminded me that I'm the party boy. So if there's a party going on, or a celebration going on, I'd like to be there. And
Okay.
I'm a happy guy. I'm an easygoing guy. I'm a loving guy,
Okay.
and there's a serious side to me as well. So by giving
Okay.
back, I think, well, I know I see the positives in people, and I see the positives in the situation. So
Okay.
that's Owen John Baptiste.
And so, what would you think? How do other people see you? How do you think other people see you?
A lot of people see me as a fun guy. They don't see me serious. A lot of people see me as the fixer. A lot of people see me as whatever they say. But here I am. I'm human. I have a heart. I hear things. Um, it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me
Okay.
because those that matter, I know what they're thinking. Those that
Okay.
matter, tell me.
I was more or less thinking, like, if you were to pass on, um, what
I
would
will pass
people?
on.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
will. But what would you want people to say after you've gone? How would you want people
oh,
to remember you?
yeah.
That's what I meant.
He had a good innings and he had fun doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to look at it.
And another question. We're nearly at the end now. Life, nothing is perfect in our life, but what would be a perfect life for you? How would that look?
To be able to win the lottery and open a school
Okay.
and help some of our children and parents who are not as fortunate as the rest of us. Give them that laptop, give them that education, tap into their knowledge.
Hmm.
That would be satisfaction for me.
Okay, and the last thing I wanted to say for people who are feeling discouraged because of, you know, COVID-19 and maybe a lockdown and those kind of restrictions,
Hmm.
what would you say? What words would you give people to encourage them or make them feel a bit better about the situation?
I've been fortunate enough to work for myself for the last 20 years plus, and a lot of the time I work from home. And I remember my mother asking me, "Is what I'm doing legal?" And I said, "Yes, Mum." I says, "I had a computer, I had a printer, and I said, I can talk to the world on the computer and I can print off anything on my printer." I said, "Why would I go and take an office downtown when anybody wants to talk to me will call me on my mobile?"
Hmm.
So you've got the whole world out there to talk to. Why are you feeling depressed? You've got Google on there and lots of other applications that you could actually search and find answers to whatever your questions are. When I was doing my university degree, I was lucky enough that I had a computer, but there were people who were still going to the library and doing their research.
Mm.
And my parents, people of my parents' age and older, they didn't even have, all they had to do was go to the library and spend maybe 6, 8 hours after college or university and weekends in the library doing the research. Now it's on the touch of a button, be it on your phone or on your laptop.
Mm.
So don't be despondent. Don't be down, downtrodden and negative. Find the answers within your network. I used to say to my female students, if you've got a problem and you don't want to discuss it with me as a man, speak to your best friend, speak to your auntie, speak to your mother, speak to your neighbour,
Mm.
because women's bodies are different to men's.
Mm.
So you could find those answers. And if you didn't trust any of them, then speak to somebody that you can trust. And I'd say the same thing to the guys, because you can't gel with everybody. There's people they're just gonna look at you and not feel comfortable in you talking to you.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, you've got to find a solution. Now, if somebody tells you turn left, go down the road and turn left to get to a destination, and you go down the road and turn right, and then you remember, oh, he did say left, and I've got my left mixed up with my right. Then you're not following the instructions. And life is about instructions. Life's about taking the next step. Life's about enjoyment. Just as quick as you can see the horrible side of somebody, you could also see the good side.
Mm-hmm.
be it in yourself and in others. So I just say pray,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to be religious to pray.
Mm-hmm.
You, you, you are who you are. Do what is necessary to get you out of a given situation. If it's not working, if you're feeling down, speak to your line boss, speak to a family member, speak to your best friend. And if you don't think you've got a best friend, call me.
Number is 071. Okay, then. Well, thank you very much, Selwyn. That's been a really enjoyable interview. And how did you find it?
Found it quite interesting. It flowed, didn't it? You had me all set up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
that's
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, then. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.